Hello, everyone. So what we're going to do is start by making sure you can all see and hear. So hopefully you can see the new screen. It says live stream on the right-hand side in a black button. If you could put a Y in the chat box or the question box for me so I know that we're getting, yeah, everybody's saying yes already, which is excellent. Ralph's got a good question. Tyrone's got a good question. So we've got some good questions already. We're going to go over a few things, of course. And while people are still signing in, because we've got quite a big crowd, which is excellent, let me just explain how we'll do this today. I'm going to try to keep this to an hour because the one thing I don't want to do is sit and type for you. Watching me type is going to be boring. So, I will be doing fragments of sentences and so on, so you get the idea of what to do. But I'm not going to write an entire article because that's just, you'd have to sit and watch me. Now, there will be a recording, so if you miss something or if you have to break off, you get a phone call, whatever, don't worry, you're going to be getting the recording later. So you can review this as many times as you like. And I'm going to show you a new feature, and I'm also going to show you a little tool that we've got that's quite fun. I think you'll enjoy it. And of course, lots of questions are very welcome. I'll take as many as I can. If you have questions later, send them in and I'll answer them. But I'll try to do as many as I can. But looking at the questions that have come already, it may be impossible to do all of them. But there's some really good questions. So let me just explain what we're going to cover for you, because the first thing we're going to do is just a quick recap. I've been asked by several people, how does it work? What's the basic? So we're going to look at that and talk about some of the ways you can use it. But then we'll look at three types of workflow. Now, there's the fast one, which is sort of fully automated, what I call the standard one, where you do a little bit of work yourself. And then there's the quality workflow, which, if you follow what I'm going to suggest to you, will give you better output and is likely to beat your competitors, because the average person who does spinning doesn't bother doing any extra work, and so they just get the same as everybody else. But if you spend a little bit of time, you can get a lot of quality. And then I'm going to show you what I call a sneaky tool. You'll all be getting that. I've got to do it manually. So, that's going to be over the next few days. But when I show you it, it's quite fun. Now, remember, the whole point of content here, Google loves content. Content is king. All those things you've heard before. The other thing that Google and the search engines love generally is not just content, but fresh content. Now, keep that in mind when we talk a little bit later on, because fresh content, regular fresh content, is important. And you'll see why that becomes important in a few minutes. So we're going to jump in. Now, at some points, I may have to just talk about things and I won't be doing anything on screen. I will show you, hopefully, if I remember this image, so that you know I'm talking and not showing the screen. Okay. Most of the time, you're going to be seeing a demo, which is fine. But if I do need to pause for a moment and talk, so let me just find my best spinner. There we go. So I'm logged in. So we're going to do a couple of things here first, which I want to cover for those of you who are thinking about selling your services. Now, you can see that we have this project system where you can do it by niche, or you could do it by client if you have a client. And when we press the triangle here, you can see the articles within any particular project. Now, what may not be obvious is that, in fact, let me just close these down and do a new one for you, and you'll see what I mean. And this may be useful for you, for yourself, or it could be for clients. So we're going to do a new project, and let's just call that one Eamon's new super project, because I couldn't think of a better name. That's fine. I can put articles in here. That's all cool. But I may need more levels of distinction. And so within my project here, I can create a sub-project. So what you do, you highlight the project. And if I zoom in, actually, you'll be able to see better. Now, if you can see there, there's a shading, which means I've selected the project. So whatever I do next is going to affect this project. I can delete it and add an article, all that kind of stuff. But I can also add a new sub-project. And this could be, whoops, let's do, I've got to click at the right place. There we go. So we'll call this one, let's say, weight loss. Oh, it would help if I spell it right, wouldn't it? But there we go. You forgive me for the spelling mistake. If I want to create another sub-project, I just highlight the main folder, the main project, click on the new icon again, call it whatever you want, weight loss, skin care. Now, you can do this if you have a client. The client, I've put Eamon's new super project, but it could be client Smith. And you can then, if they have multiple niches, you can keep good control of what you do for them. Because if you're doing hundreds of articles, it's really easy to get disorganized. So we've got a very flexible system here for you to do that. So now what we're going to do is actually look at the fast spin. And in fact, let me just do one in here. We'll do it on skincare. So I've selected the project, and you can see it's highlighted, which means I'm working on that project now. And then I'm going to come up to the new article icon here and press this, and we can type an article in. That's the user tab. We can use the PLR database or the article builder. Now, these are quick starts. One of the things you can do with these is not just to import an article and start spinning, but it can give you ideas. So if I preview one of these, let's have a look. What did we say? Skincare, wasn't it? Health and fitness, would it be in there? Acne, skincare, yeah, acne, okay, we'll do that. So 3 skincare tips for a healthier skin. Let me just have a look at the article. So when I'm looking at this, and it doesn't take long to do, by the way, it's going to take me a lot longer to explain than it is for you to do it. When you're looking at this, you can discern the structure, and then that will give you ideas for the kind of articles you might want to write yourself. So this one has a nice introduction. It's getting people introduced to the article, that's great. And then it's going on to explain a bit more about what happens, how acne is caused and so on, where it affects the skin. And then there's a logical progression to, okay, now that we've established the problem, here are some solutions. And this is something, that particular kind of structure is great, because when you remind people of the pain they have, whether it's not enough money, physical pains, arthritis, diabetes, skincare issues, if their skin flares up, reminding them of the pain they have leads on to them thinking about what are the potential solutions. And when you then introduce that potential solution to them, they're more likely to buy something. So this structure already, and it's a simple article, is a great structure. And it only takes a moment or two is everybody else hearing me? Because Wendy's saying she can't hear me. So let me just check if I can get a quick why. Yeah, everybody's hearing. So Wendy, I'm just going to mention to Wendy that the recording is normally perfect. You may need to log back in. Okay, so what I'm doing is getting some ideas. That's the first thing. And then, I can choose which article I want. And by the way, I'm going to have to zoom out again so I can see the close button here. Because I'd zoomed in for you, if you remember. That's why it didn't appear. So if I want to take this article, we double click on the article title, and it's now in my skincare subfolder. So if I double click this article, I'm now working on the article itself. So that's the basic way to get an article into here. Now we've got 3 tabs, visual, code, and generate. I'm going to go through them quickly and then break them down in more detail. The visual is where you click on a word. Sorry, did I show you that? Let me just do that. So I'm going to click on the first sentence here, and we get this content variation dialog box. And in here, you can type whatever you think of as an alternative to 3 top acne skincare tips for healthier skin. And then you can add that variation into the spinning. You can add another one, keep going, and when you've finished adding as many as you like, you click save, and that becomes a spin tax for this sentence. So it could be as simple as putting the word 3 instead of the number. 3 top acne tips for great looking skin. Now, what I want you to notice here is that this spinning is very easy to do because it doesn't take me long to think of an alternative to this sentence. Great looking skin, healthier skin. It takes what, a couple of seconds, and your typing speed's whatever you can type at, but actually coming up with something different, very quick. Now, I've been asked a couple of questions about these options here. So we've got add variation. What that will do is pop it into this area about here. So you'll have variation 0, which is the original, variation 1, variation 2, and so on. But we also have auto spin and spin. Now, auto spin is going to do a lot of work for me here on what's typed in this box. So I've got to type something in here to use auto spin. The auto spin down here and the spin down here work on what's in this box. So the control is just underneath the actual text. So let me show you what it does when we auto spin. Only takes a second, and now we've got all these options like zits, breakouts, pimples, strategies, methods for, techniques for, and so on. So that's already well spun just by clicking on auto spin. If I want to add that in, just click add variation. I now have two variations, one of which is already in Spintax, and I can add more and so on. Let's have a look at this particular original now, and we can auto spin that or we can spin it. With the spinning, what it will do is allow you to jump from one word to the next. And if you want to, you can enter synonyms here, or you can pick them from the list if there are some alternatives in the list. So I'm going to leave that as just the number 3 for the moment. To move from one item to the next now, I'm just going to use the right and left arrow keys on the keyboard, and it jumps across for me. So now I can see that I've got a whole batch of options here. Now I'm going to jump forward a second to what I call the quality spinning, because you can do quality spinning on any of these tabs. And this is a really simple thing to do. This is really simple to do, but it's something people don't do very often. When you're spinning, there's a tendency to concentrate just on these words. Okay. And, you know, top, best, leading, top rated, that all sounds great. They all sound like suitable words, don't they? So what we're going to do for quality is look at each of these options. So at the moment I'm looking at best, and then see whether that makes sense with the rest of the sentence. So 3 best acne skincare tips for healthier skin. It makes sense. It would read well, so I can choose it. Now you notice how it's building up this Spintax format for me as I go. So all I'm doing is looking at the next one, in this case the word leading. So, and actually if you say it out loud it can be very useful. 3 leading acne skincare tips for a healthier skin. You may be happy with that. I don't like how it sounds. That doesn't sound like me speaking. I wouldn't speak that way. I wouldn't write that way. If I do original articles on my blog, this would start to look different. So I would not use that particular one. And here's another point for you to remember. If you're going to create some original articles on your blog that have a particular style or flavor, if you want to call it that, it's useful to try to remember that when you're creating a spin version so that it matches you. Because when people come along, if they like what you're talking about, they like your information, they're going to want some more of the same. They're going to look at what else you've got on the website. And if it's all disjointed and, you know, the way you write on one article is very different from the next, it can be a little bit jarring for the visitor. So Ralph's asking if we go sentence by sentence. You don't have to. No, you can do paragraphs as well. You can do word by word, or you can do an automatic one, which I'm going to show you in a moment or two. So at the moment, this is the what we call the visual spinner, because it's just separating out elements for you to work on. And you'll see again some more in a moment. So I'll just work my way down this list. So would I say 3 top-rated acne skincare tips? Maybe 3 very best. Yeah, I'd certainly be happy with that one. 3 very best acne skincare tips for a healthier skin. So click the selection and it's building up the Spintax for me. Right. Move to the right with the arrow key. And acne, I'm going to keep it as acne personally. Skincare, you can have it as a single word, you can have it as 2 words. So for this, again, I'm reading to make sense. 3 top acne skincare tips. Yep, skincare, skin treatment kit. Yeah, okay, yeah, skin treatment would work. Healthy skincare tips for a healthier skin doesn't make sense, does it? Because I've got the word healthier in here. So what I'm wanting to emphasize for you here is that by taking literally, you know, it's a second to read it, especially if you can do it out loud, to see whether it makes sense, will help you avoid the problems that some people have with spinning where the article doesn't read very well. So for me, Three very best acne healthy skincare tips for a healthier skin doesn't sound right. You might like it, that's fine. You choose your own standards. But for me, the word healthy appearing twice is just a bit. Skincare hyphenated, okay, yeah, I'm happy with that. Beauty tips, I don't think I'd put that in personally. You might. Depends on the type of your blog. If it's a beauty blog, that's fine. And then right arrow key, tips for, strategies for, methods for. Would I say tips for? Yes, we've got that already. Strategies for. If I were positioning this blog for a teenager, I'd probably skip strategies for. Now, please remember it's taking me a lot longer to explain what I'm doing and what I recommend you do than it takes to do it in real life. And in a moment, I'll just do it without explaining it so you can see how quick it goes. And when you're looking at things like this, would it fit your target audience? Then what it means is you're going to meet their needs more effectively. Just think about that for a moment. Every audience is slightly different. So, a teenage audience, if that's what your blog is about, is going to be different from, say, a woman of 50, right? So we do that. So, strategies, yeah, I'd be okay with that normally. Methods, yep, certainly. Techniques, tricks, I quite like that. Suggestions for. Now, if you want to add a new one yourself, you just click in here, type whatever it is you want, and then click add. Okay, so tricks for, yeah, I'm happy with that one. A healthier skin, so much healthier. I don't like how it sounds. More healthy skin, no. Far healthier, better. I'm happy with better, or healthy, just that. That's fine. So I'm now done with spinning this variation. I did the automatic on this one. So I'll click on save. And by the way, I can add as many of these as I want to. So if you want just a couple of variations, that's fine. If you want 6, that's fine. The more variations you have on each sentence, the more you can output the articles and get fairly unique articles out of it because they all sort of multiply together. If you have 5 variations of the title and 5 variations of the first sentence, you actually end up with 25 variations. They multiply together. So the more you spin that way, the better. Click down here, and now I've got a paragraph. So I think Ralph was asking, do you do it sentence by sentence? You can do an entire paragraph if you wish to. And you can see I've got this paragraph here. I could just type in a new paragraph. Or if you prefer to work on sentences, you click on Add Sentence Variations. Now, I would say, I'm going to be honest here, I personally think the more you can break it down, the easier it is to do. So I would go for the sentences because it's easier as a unit of thought to deal with each time. Now, that doesn't mean to say that we're all dumb, we're not. But the fact is, if you're trying to deal with a big paragraph and think of an entire replacement text for it, it is harder than doing a single sentence. As it happens, this particular paragraph is a big sentence, so it's only a single sentence, but in most cases, you'd have more sentences in a paragraph than just a single sentence. But if you use the sentence variation option down here, I promise you it's likely to be much easier for you. And so you should be able to do better quality as you go through. If you're trying to do an entire thing, well, that's fine if it works for you, but try it both ways and see which is best for you. Because honestly, I think most people will find having it split out just makes life a little bit easier because you've less to think about each time. I'm going to pause while we just have a look at the questions. What's the best way to spin a single article with one variation? With a single variation, Jason, if you do I'll tell you what, Jason, let me come back to that one for you because I'm going to show you that in a moment or two. I don't want to skip too far ahead, but I'll show you one way we can do that. Ralph was asking about sentence by sentence. I would recommend that personally, but you don't have to. Ralph is asking, would you get multiple articles using these different words? Yes, and I will show you that fairly quickly. Okay. If you're doing sentences, can you leave it blank to not spin the sentence? Ken's asking, if oh, I see what you mean. So if I leave this blank and add a variation, you can say, no, you have to put something in. So at the moment you can't, but that's actually a good point, Ken, because I think that would be a good feature to add. So I think what I'll say is we'll get that added in because it would be a good idea to do that. So that way you can sometimes have, sentences disappearing, and you can have more than one sentence replacing a single sentence. So I'll show you that in a moment when we get onto a slightly nicer looking sentence. So I'm going to cancel that one. Let's have a look. Yeah, here's a paragraph with a couple of sentences. So let's add the sentence variations here. So this gives me a drop-down box where I can look at each one on its own. So this paragraph is made up of 3 sentences. I'm going to work on the middle one for the moment. So it not only affects the surface of the skin, but also the inner layers of the skin. What I'm going to do, just to illustrate the point for you, I'm going to turn this into 2 sentences now. This doesn't only affect the surface of the skin. That's the first part of that sentence, isn't it? That's what it's saying. And now, as a second sentence, so I get a different structure now. And I'm coming back to that in a second to explain what I mean. I'll complete the rest. It will also affect the inner layers. And I can do, let me show you a little trick here. I'm going to copy that entire sentence, and you'll see why in a moment. Now you notice I've got this exclamation mark, exclamation point at the end. So I'll add in the variation for that sentence. Now I'm going to go back and paste it in and take out the exclamation mark. Things like that do make a difference, okay? Add the variation, come back, paste it, take out the exclamation point, and hyphenate it, okay? So these are variations that are very quick to do, and they are different. I can also change the sequence of the sentences. So again, you can copy and paste here, but let's just cut this one out for the moment. Sadly, it will affect the inner layers as well as the outer layers of the surface. So now I've actually reversed the flow of the logic, and that makes sense still because it does make sense, and I put sadly to sort of introduce the fact that I'm talking about the inner layers. So you can spin multiple variations by copying, pasting, and changing some of the formatting, put a hyphen, colon, semicolon, commas, that kind of thing. You can reverse the sentences. You can add multiple sentences instead of one. Is that making sense for people? And I know there's a ton of questions. I will keep coming back to these. Let's have a just look. Nested spin tags. Sometimes words don't go together well. While switching one word will do the trick. Okay. Nesting is possible, Christopher. Yeah, you can get nested spin tags in here, and I'll show you that in a moment or two. So I'm actually going to save this now. And then save that. And if I look at the code here, you're going to see we're getting already we're getting some nested spin tags in here. And if you want to, you can do this manually from the code window. You can go straight in. This is a manual spin. So this sort of gearbox icon allows you to go straight in and change everything by hand if you like doing that. Okay, we'll come back to that page in a moment to show you some more features there. So basically, I would just work down this entire article the same way. So we've done the, which one did we do? One of these sentences, I've forgotten which anyway. So let me have a look at this one. I don't think I've done this one yet, have I? Oh, yes, I did. I've already done that one. I only did one sentence, didn't I? So let me do the next paragraph for you and show you without talking, if you can bear with me for a second or two. I'll show you how I would do this when I'm concentrating on what I'm doing. And if I may, I'll mute for a second, but I just want you to see that it's pretty fast to do. So I'm going to do that now, and because I like sentence variations because they're easy, that's what I'm going to use. So I'll mute now for a moment or two. Okay. Now, I don't know if anybody timed that for me. I reckon that was about 15 seconds. I have a variation now. It's the same idea. It's in different words. Pretty easy to do. Depends on your typing speed. But you notice we have auto spin on every one of the text boxes. So now this is my manual variation. So I can click auto spin and it will do an auto spin for me, or I can click spin and do this manually and get even more variation. Now, Christopher was asking about nested spinning. So variation one is going to be spun with variation zero is going to be spun with variation one and variation two if I do it, and so on. Now, if I spin variation one on its own, then what I get as the output is nested spinning because I have spins within spins, if that makes sense. So if I do the auto spin just for speed, I'm now getting variation zero is spinning with all the spun variations of variation one. I hope that makes sense, but it is nested spinning, which means you get more complexity of output, more variety, and more uniqueness. Now, if you've never done spinning before, or you find it a little bit difficult when you get going, do it do it simply to get used to it. If you jump in, into the deep end too soon, you may get into trouble. Start with simple spinning so you learn what happens, how it looks, and so on. So I'm good. I'm going to just save this now. I haven't done the other sentences. I know I should have done, but I want to show you the code again. So you can see where we've got spinning and where we haven't. So this is the code window. Now I'm going to flip over to the generate one here just for a quick moment because we had a question. I'm just trying to remember who asked it. Let's have a look. Um, I forget who asked it. I apologize. But the question was, do we get multiple different articles? Now, I've only spun a certain amount of this, so you're not going to see the entire thing change. But this particular window is showing me one variation based on the spin tax we've just done. So what you're seeing here is not the original article, it's a variation. And I can copy it to my clipboard and then save it in Word or whatever. I can highlight and copy, but I've got a variation here. So somebody asked if we could just get a single variation. Was it? Let's have a look. I think it was Jason. Yeah. So this gives you a single variation of the article. But using this sort of refresh button here, we can go through and just have a look at the possible variations. Every time I click, I'm going to get a slightly different variation. Now, how much variation you get depends on how much spinning you've done. I've only done a little bit to show you, so you're not getting sort of 100% spinning. But if you look closely, you can see the wording change where I've done the spinning. And if you're happy with that single variation, that's fine. Copy it to your clipboard or copy and paste from here. Now, when we download multiple articles, you can actually say, just give me a single article. So you can download a zip file with that. So that's fine as well. And this will give you a single variation. So there's a couple of different ways you can get to that one variation that Jason was asking about. Ralph, you don't have to use the code ever. This is there for those people, if you like, power users who want more precise control, because you can get in and get straight into the raw code, as it were, if you want to. There's a couple of other things you can do here as well, which I'll show you in a moment or two. But again, that's sort of more for the top quality output and so on. But from here is where you do most of the spinning fairly fast. And one of the ways you would do it is with the auto spinning. Now, the generate is where you get your final articles. You can do your audio and language translations as well, and so on, and post to your blog, of course. Somebody was asking earlier, if you have a particular term and you want to protect it, or if you're going to be doing lists or things of that nature, you don't want them to change. We have a new feature here, which is this padlock, and that allows you to specify terms you do not want to be spun. So Cheryl was asking, by the way, Cheryl, you were asking if you do a manual spin and then do some automatic spinning on the same article, do they get merged? Yes, they do. Yeah, because as long as it's in the same article, the system just sees spinning. So they merge in the output. So as an example that Cheryl was asking about, she wanted the phrase salad not to be spun because it was quoted. So if I put that term in there, it's going to be ignored. It's not going to get spun. I can put any term I like in there. I could put, I may want to use the word television and spell it fully every time. And each time I get a new line, I can put a new term that I want to protect. So, if there's something you particularly need to protect, trade name, specific phrase, whatever it may be, you can use this to protect that term. Now, the term can be a single word or it can be a phrase. So it could be significant weight loss, or it could be Jenny Craig weight loss, or I'm trying to think of examples, but any term that you need to protect, this is where you can do it. And you notice we have two boxes. Well, one is, the top one is just for the article that you're working on, but the bottom one is for everyone that you come across. Now, particularly if you have clients, there may be certain phrases that they want to use. So I'm just going to give you a silly example, but go with me on this if you would, please. If you were doing some work for McDonald's, I know they're a big company, so it's unlikely, but suppose you were doing some work for McDonald's to write articles. They probably wouldn't want one of their catchphrases to be rewritten. So I'm loving it. They wouldn't want it to suddenly become I'm liking it or we're liking it. They would want the phrase to be respected because it's part of their promotional advertising. So in that particular case, if you were doing that in that specific example, you'd put in the phrase that you want to protect. So this is quite a useful feature if you do have those terms that you need to keep the same. So let me pause for a second while I check questions because I can see quite a few scrolling through. So just, and it's a big window, so I'm going to have to scroll back. So please bear with me. Is there a way to add links to the article before uploading to a blog? Yeah, okay. I'll come to that shortly, Ralph. Yes, you can. Linda is asking, what's the difference between auto spin and spin? Auto spin is the system using its inbuilt intelligence to guess the best options for you. It's not 100% perfect, pretty good, but never 100% perfect. With spin, what it will do is show you the options it thinks are suitable, and you choose them yourself. So if I come back to a paragraph here now, in fact, let me just, I'll go back to that one, do sentence variations. So here, if I do spin, what I'm going to get is the options that I get to choose. I have full control, you see. So this is the difference. Auto spin does it for you, but spin gives you suggestions that you can discard if you don't like them. So first of all, to begin with, I would like to start with makes sense. Firstly, for starters, first off, all of those make sense with that particular phrase. And remember, I read what comes next to see if they make sense. Then I'm going to use my right arrow key to move on to the next phrase, personal hygiene. Individual hygiene, I don't think that makes sense properly, but let me enter a new synonym, personal cleanliness. Have I spelled that right? Yeah. So that would make sense to me for this particular phrase, right? And then we can go back. Is very necessary, is extremely necessary, is incredibly, I like incredibly, is really necessary. Right arrow key to move on, necessary for, needed for, important for, vital for, essential for. Yeah, I think they make sense. Fighting acne, combating, I like that. Yeah, preventing, dealing. Yeah, they all make sense to me. Okay, so the spin is my choice. The auto spin is the system's choice. So let me just save that particular option. So that's the difference between auto spin and spin. Now, Ralph was asking about adding links to the article before uploading a blog. Good question. So here's the thing. We're dealing with a plain text article. This is not something you've taken from Word because that has hidden codes. This is literally plain text. Now, within the plain text, we can add content here. So Let me just find a nice clean article sentence that we haven't touched. Okay, this one. Yeah, okay. And I'm choosing a small one because I just want you to see it more clearly. So let's say you've got an affiliate link for a skincare cream. So I'm actually just going to copy. Whoops. Let me just copy that properly. I hit the wrong button there. You see how lazy I am? I'm copying, pasting instead of typing. That was what, 2 seconds? So, you can do a lot of stuff in here by using the tools you have on your computer, copy and paste with your mouse and so on. Right, so this is giving me a starting point. I'm going to change it a little bit, but acne skincare tip number 3. Choose your cosmetics carefully. That's not much different, but it's only taken me a second, but it is different. It's a unique variation. Now, supposing we've got a link, you can find hypoallergenic skincare products. Yeah, by clicking here. Now, I can also add that in here, by the way, if I wanted to, that link. But when you're putting in a link, you have to put in the special HTML code. Now, if you don't know what that is and you've never done it, it can look really weird. But let me show you what you would do it. So if I put this left bracket a space href equals, and then quotes, close bracket, bracket slash a, close bracket. Anything I put in here now, and I probably need to zoom in so you can see. Let me just make sure you can see this, okay? HTTP, I'm going to put the bbc.uk, but anyway, it would be your website or your link. That is a link with the phrase clicking here, so that when we publish this article to our blog, we would have a clickable link for this website. Now, the website is just an example when I put it. Could have been msn.com just as easily. It could be ralphswebsite.com. It could be, I don't know of any skincare products, but, whatever the big skincare products are. So that is a link that would become clickable after you publish the article. Okay. So there's one link. Now let's just copy and paste that. So I'm putting the link here in both of these variations because it was only in one, the one I've just done. So let me just add the variation. So that's going to get added into my article later. So let's save that. Article saved, great. Okay, so when we generate this, yeah, this looks a bit messy here, doesn't it? Because this is plain text. But when you add this onto your blog in text mode, what you will get is a clickable link. So and the link, by the way, can be as many in here as you want. You can put lots of different links. You can also put links that are spun. Now, if that kind of seems odd, let me explain why you might want to do that. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, you're doing skincare, you're an affiliate for 4 different products. You may want to test those products to see which ones give you the best results, which ones sell most, which ones give best commission, and so on. One of the ways you can do that is having your articles randomly show one of those links. And that way they're going to get a fair share of traffic and click-throughs. And later on, you'll be able to analyze the traffic and say, well, hang on, this particular link, this one to, Max Factor or whatever it might be, that one seems to get a lot of traffic, a lot of click-throughs, a lot of people buying. But the other 3, people aren't as interested. I'm going to maximize that particular link instead now because you've got some results. And I'll show you that in a moment when we come on to the blog, because there's a couple of ways you can do this with spinning on your blog as well. Okay, let me just pause. Again, questions, lots of questions. Leonard, is there a maximum size or number of words for the articles that we work on? In reality, there's no strict limit, but in reality, if you're going much above a couple of thousand words, it's probably a little bit it's going to be a bit sluggish and not terribly efficient. Ralph says this is extremely time consuming for a 500-word article. You're quite right, Ralph, but it's still better for you. So let me explain why. If all you get is a single 500-word article, it's longer than writing it, isn't it? But you don't get a single 500-word article. So if you want to take a challenge, Ralph, and we'll do this live on a webinar one time, you write 10 articles from scratch. I'll write one with spin tax and produce 25, and we'll time who's quicker, okay? Because I'll be 5 times quicker than you. The point of this is, I'm just having fun there, by the way. The point of this is, when you've done what I'm showing you, and you can do as much of this as you like or as little, and you have the automatic spin, remember, when you've done this, you're going to output multiple versions of the article. So instead of having your single article now, you're going to have 10, 15, 20. You can have even more than that, depending on how much you spin. So you're not really creating a single article here. What you are creating is a seed article that generates articles on its own. So you will end up with a lot more than you could do manually. It's just not possible to do it manually in the same speed. Does that make sense? Let me know, Ralph, if that makes sense for you. Great, thanks. Can you retrieve articles that were deleted? Gary, no, sorry, when they're gone, they're gone. Christopher, if you do spinning manually, and you can do that in the code window, does it work? Yes. It doesn't care whether you've done it yourself or the auto spin. It's just these special formats telling the system what to do. So manual spin, automatic spin, they're all treated the same. And if they're in the article, they're all merged together and used for the output. So yeah, there's no distinction. Bruce is asking, can we have a feature that says, oh, Bruce, what a great idea. So Bruce is asking, can we have a little button somewhere that will drop in that code that I showed you? Where was it? Oh, it's down here somewhere, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay, the page is refreshed now, so you're seeing that it's become the link that I told you about, Ralph. And Bruce is asking, could we have some way of dropping that in rather than him trying to remember the A href equals blah, blah. I think that's a great idea. I like that idea. I can't give you 100% yes today, but I think it's an excellent idea, Bruce. And so, yeah, I think it is. Ralph is saying, yeah, it is a great idea. James is asking, can you do manually word by word without spinning? All right, so from the code window here. Okay, let me start a new article and show you. The answer is yes, James, but I'll show you because this is a bit messy. Oh, no, it's not messy. We've got a clean one here. So this clean sentence that I'm looking at here is what I'm going to show you for the manual thing that James is asking about. So up the top here, we've got protected terms again. We also have toggle spin and manual spin and auto spin. Now, just to answer the question for the people who were asking earlier and might have missed it, if you want to spin an entire article completely automatically, you click this light bulb thing and boom, the article is spun. That's it, you're done. It's like 3 seconds. However, you're not going to get the absolute best quality that way because some of the terms may not be perfect. They may not read well. You know, I showed you earlier when I was looking at the sentence options and I said, well, I wouldn't speak that way. I don't think that makes sense for this sentence. With the auto spin, you may get some like that really don't read perfectly. And it may be okay for what you're doing, but you know, if you spend a bit of time kind of checking that, you can increase the quality significantly, which is something people don't do. And if you do it, that means you're way ahead of other people. So that's a real big benefit if you can spend a few minutes doing it. So we're just looking at this article, this. In fact, you know what? Let me do a brand new one because it really is messy, isn't it? So let's do another one. And this is going to be for, just pull one in. Yeah, I'm going to choose the same article because we've worked on it, so we might as well. Have I got the same one? Yeah, that's it. Cool. So instead of the visual window now, we're going to go to the code window. And what James is wanting to do is look through word by word and choose himself. So I'm going to use the toggle spin mode and look what happens. It jumps straight into showing me the suggestions. Now, I can add in some new ones here. I can accept any that are showing. I get full control here, absolutely full control. To move forward, you use the right arrow key. Move back is the left arrow key. Nice and simple, right? So I can choose any of these. So top, best, um, leading. I'm just going to choose them even if they're not perfect, okay? Top rated, top notch. Can you see how it's building up, James? By my choice. I'm choosing these words. I'm happy with that choice, so I now use the right arrow. Acne, acne breakouts, pimples, zits, bad acne, cystic acne, and so on. Right arrow. Oops, hit the wrong one. Did I? Yeah. Skin care, skin care, skin treatment, skin care. And again, you just work your way through choosing the ones you like. So this is a manual spinning technique where the suggestions are made to you and you pick and choose the best that you like. It's like from a menu. Does that make sense? So tips for strategy. I said methods before, didn't I? And tricks. I like that phrase. A healthier skin, a new healthier skin, a good healthier skin. I don't think that makes sense, doesn't it? So A, I'm going to leave on its own. Healthier, much healthier. Okay, far healthier, better. Yeah, skin. Complexion. There you go. Skin and complexion. And we'll just work our way down. So it's just going from one phrase and sentence and word to the next. It's giving me options. I'm in complete control, but of course it's going to take a little bit longer than the auto spin. So let me just come out of there. Click this again. It's a toggle. I just want to show you an absolute instant spin. Okay, when we're in the code window, we choose the light bulb. Now look at this. You can see what it's like. When I click this, I've now got, boom, it's done. That's finished. That's finished. So yeah, it's buffet style, Bruce. That's right. Yeah, I'll have one from column A, two from. That's right. You pick and choose, pick and mix. So that manual way of doing it is great if you like to work that way. But the truth is, I think more people prefer the system to do the work for them than choosing. So let's pretend I've checked through this. I've chosen my own options here. I'm happy with it. I can generate. So now when I generate this, if we look at the actual text here, and I'll zoom in, I think, so you can just maybe see the changes a little bit more easily. So when I press the refresh button, it's going to show me the variations that appear. Now, if you only want a few variations, you can look through them, have a quick read, find the ones that you like best. And this is just selecting now, so it's not writing again, you're just selecting. And again, that's pretty quick. So look, click, changed, 3 best acne skin. No, I don't like epidermis in that. 3 top pimples skincare methods. Nah. Top rated skin. Yeah, I like that one better. Finest zits skincare options for a healthy. Well, for a teenage audience, the word zits would certainly be suitable. Again, click, 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 click. Can you see it's changing each time? And these are each individual unique variations. Let me just zoom out so you can see again. You should be saving each one you like. Well, you can, Ralph. Yes. I mean, I'm just doing it quickly to show you. But you can download from here, copy to your article clipboard. You can copy and paste from here, or you can download a whole batch of them. And you can see, choose as many as you like, up to 100. The other thing you can do, which we're going to do now just to show you, and just bear with me 1 second. So these sort of 3 bars here allow you to have a look at the variations on the article. So let's say I want at least 60% variation. So I'm going to put 60% in there. Click generate. Now what I can see is most of these articles are around the 50% or so, which actually is not bad, but I've put 60% in. So I wouldn't download any of those if I click on the download button. If I had some at 60%, it would filter out the ones that have 60% uniqueness or better. So you can set the bar for yourself. Now, that showed me they were around the 50%. If I want a higher percentage, I can go back and code some more. I can do the visual, click on an item, and add some more variations. I've only got a few here, haven't I, as you can see, but I can add as many as I like. We just cancel out of there. I can go into the code and I can do it manually, but honestly, I've got to say, for most people, when you see stuff that looks like this, it's quite difficult to work with. Whereas if you go on the what we call the spin mode here, the toggle that we have, it's going to work its way through it for you, and you can just work your way through choosing your options and so on. If you want to do the fully manual, okay, click on manual spin. Um, Personally, I really do like the visual now. This is one of the reasons we have this, because it just takes things small steps at a time for you. So let's have a look. Pimples, skin, yeah. You see, some of these are not spun, are they? So we've got idea. This is beginning to spin. It is best to. So we can add some more spin variations, and then that will increase the uniqueness. By the way, I only did a small amount of spinning in that, so that 50% is not bad for what I did. So Meg's asking, if the article is not as good as I like, I can rewrite it in the code tab before starting the spin technique in the visual tab. Yes, you can. You can put what you like in the code tab, and it just sort of remembers what you've done. So let me just show you. If I go into manual spin, I'm just debating whether to show you something here, because this is really powerful, but I don't want to confuse people. So let's say this entire block, I sometimes want that to be in the article, sometimes not. Here's a way to do that. Let me just get some working space now. And I'm doing this space, by the way, just because I find it easier to see what I'm doing, okay? So spintax is a curly bracket, then options in the middle, and then another curly bracket to the right. Everything in between gets spun and varied, right? So if I put this first block, if I just delete the spaces, that first block is within a spin bracket. If I go to the end of that block that was already there and put what we call the vertical pipe, now I'm hoping you can see that. Let me zoom in. Can you see just here where the cursor is? That vertical bar, it's called the vertical pipe. If I put the vertical pipe and nothing else, but immediately put the right bracket, this is an advanced technique that is telling the spinner either work with this block or give me nothing. So what I would have now is the option of an article that sometimes starts with this paragraph and sometimes goes straight to the next paragraph. And that means I can have varied formatting, I can have varied layout, and I can go even further with this, by the way. I can actually, if I have two good paragraphs, either one of which could be suitable as the introduction, I can have it so that sometimes the first paragraph comes first, sometimes it comes second, and so on. I don't want to confuse you with that, because when you're doing it in the code window, it looks messy. But for those of you who do manual spinning, you've probably got what I'm talking about, right? So let's have a look. Does that kind of answer your question, Meg? Let's have a look. Bruce is saying icons are great, but okay, yeah. So these icons, if you hold your mouse over them, it tells you what they are. Does that help, Bruce? You see, so we've got the auto spin, manual spin, the spin mode where you work your way along and it gives you the suggestions. Yeah. Could we add a label on the left under this that says recorded webinars? It's going to be under the help, actually, Bruce. Good question. Yes, so we have the quick start video, but the recording of this is going to be in here. So it'll be further down the page. But yeah, we are going to do that, of course. Let me just go back to my spinner. So this is what we did. We looked at doing that manually. Now, actually, let me just show you what that looks like. Now I'm taking out my blank space. I put the space in so I didn't get confused. All right, does that make sense to everyone? I put all that space in so I could see what I was doing. It's not because I wanted a ton of space. It was just so I could see what I'm doing. Now in the visual, you can't see this complexity. But in the generate, what was this first sentence? So we've got yeah, okay. So the first block is showing me like the title. Yeah. So if we now go to generate, and just keep going through, sometimes we're going to get it without anything. I'm not quite sure we got the div there. I think that's because I've done that manually. And so when you generate, it will give you that option of nothing eventually, right? So what you can do in the manual is the same as you could do normally in the old best spinner, for those of you who used that before, which I think many of you did. Yeah, the manual spin it's sort of a power tool for those who want it, but the visual one, let me just zoom out again. The visual one is here because, quite honestly, one of the biggest questions we're going to ask with the version 3 was, can you make it simpler to use? And because this hides the complexity for you, you really are only ever looking at a small amount at any one time. So it's nice and easy to understand and follow. So let's have a look. Table, yes, that answered that question. I'm just looking back through. Kevin's asking, what about integration with a writing aid like Grammarly, writing aids such as ProWriting or Grammarly? Honestly, at this point, Kevin, I think the answer is probably not, but never say never. I don't know for sure, but we'll certainly look into it. I think that's, a good question, but at the moment, I'm thinking it's likely to be a no, but we're going to look into it, okay? The link feature was a good one. Nesting works, yeah. Can you retrieve articles deleted? No. Jeffrey's asking, does it have the ability to use tokens, hash tokens? No, and I don't know if we're going to put that in, Jeffrey, quite honestly, because we're trying to keep it as simple as possible, but still giving power so that people can use it more frequently. We want people to use this a lot. So we're going to run over time. I'm going to take more than an hour. I apologize. I want to show you something else now, which is quite fun. So let's have a look. There's my code. This is awful looking code, isn't it? Yeah. So if I copy and paste this, I want to show you something on a blog. This is my demo blog. So it's not a real blog. I'm just doing this to show you an example. And we're going to give you this little tool called SpinMe. Some of you might have had it in the past, but if you've never heard of it, let me show you what it does. I'm taking the raw syntax and I'm going to use it in a way that will benefit me with Google. Now, do you remember at the beginning I asked you to remember that Google likes content, and even better, they like fresh content. Why do they like fresh content? Because people are searching for fresh content. So let me add a post. And we'll call it sample 1 for argument's sake. I hate this, by the way, this new layout of WordPress, but anyway. So in here, I'm going to use text, and let's just paste that. Okay. So what I've got is all that awful looking stuff that we have here. And I'm never sure how to make this normal text, but anyway, I'll leave it as it is for the moment. Now this is actually gobbledygook as it appears here. But what we can do way down at the bottom when we get there, it's a long scroll because it's a long article. We have this thing called SpinMe. And I've got a test mode so that I can actually show you what it will do. Okay. What this is going to do on the timing that I set, and these are days, so I could set it every 30 days, every 90 days. Cheryl was asking how often would you put a fresh article out there? I'm going to answer that in a moment, Cheryl, but I want to show you how it works first. So I'm going to do this in test mode, which makes the whole thing work in seconds, so that we don't have to come back next week to see this change, okay? So this is purely test mode. So at the moment, there's nothing on the blog. Let me show you the post. Emmanuel's asking a good question. Let me, I didn't do it as text, did I? I've done it wrong. Emmanuel's asking, how long does it take for a beginner to spin a 2,000-word article using sentence spin? Well, it's a good question. It depends on how fast you are with all kinds of things, how fast you read, how fast you type. If you want to spin the entire article on auto spin, it will take you 4 seconds. 4 seconds. If you want to do more manual spinning so that you have better quality output, it might take you an hour, it might take you 2 hours. Sounds like a long time. But I want to emphasize the point that I made to Ralph earlier. If you spend 2 hours on a single article, that's a long time. But if you spend 2 hours on a 2,000 word article and you use the spinning tools, you can get 10, 20, maybe even 30 variations. So you're now getting 30 articles or 20 articles in 2 hours instead of one. And all of a sudden, that becomes very quick. So what it's doing is multiplying the work you do to give you more output in the same time. So this is not to stop you doing an hour's work. This is to make that hour's work the equivalent of 6 hours or 8 hours. If you're happy to settle for the automatic spinning, you can do it in 4 seconds. So I don't know what I'm doing here with this. Where's the? Does anybody know this text? I don't use this awful thing anymore. Where's the text block? Transform to pre-formatted. I don't know. Let me have a look. Anybody know how you get this awful new editor to do normal text? How do you add images? Cheryl, in the best spinner, you can't do that directly unless you already know the URL to your images. So let's just have a look. So if I add an image, let me do that for you. I'm going to get an image and add it to the blog and then, show you what I mean. You can add it, but you need to know what you're doing really. So let's have a look. Yeah, this one. I'm going to get a small image here, download it, save file. Did it save? Can't even see. So if I upload this, let's have a look. I think it downloaded, did it? Yeah. So I'm uploading this image to my blog. And if I click on edit, over here on the right hand side, can you see? If I select the entire thing and copy it, that link will show an image. So if I were to go back to the best spinner, and we put it something in here, let me just tidy this up because this is a bit messy now, isn't it? So here is my image. And again, you'd have to know the HTML code. What that will do is actually put that image into my article. So if you keep a note of the URLs for your images, yes, you can do it directly in here. But I think, again, that's probably something for many people which, it might be easier just to go into the published post afterwards. Where was it? This one. Where I've lost it. Edit, yeah. Oh, this is it, wasn't it? Go into the post afterwards and then just select in the normal way. That might be quicker, quite honestly, unless you're very organized with the URLs. I've got to be honest, I don't think I'd personally want to be doing that. Jan's saying we should have an icon to add any link inside the spinner. Yeah, I think it's a good idea, Jan. You'd still need to know what the link is for an image, though. You'd need to know what this is. So it's fine, but you would need to know the actual URL. It's slightly different with websites such like the example I gave, BBC, MSN.com, your own website. You're going to know those URLs anyway. But for images, I mean, could you guess that really? It's, and would you guess that 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now? Yeah, YouTube images, all that kind of thing. That's all those suggestions I'm going to be putting to John, of course. So let me just go back to this little, when I find the right page, edit the post. This tool. Now, this worked before. Somebody was saying they don't update it. Meg won't touch the new version. And Chris was saying we need to use the Classic Editor plugin. So let's actually go put that in, Classic Editor. Because I must admit, it's not nice, is it, that? It's kind of... Is that it, Classic Editor? No? Yeah, Classic Editor, install now. Let's just do that. I want to show you this because the point I was talking about for giving Google fresh content is something that's easy to do. So default post category, classic editor. Yeah, okay. So where was the page? It was this one, wasn't it? No? Let me go back to my posts, edit. Okay, lovely. So what I'm doing, just so you know, is I'm going to the text tab here. Let me get rid of all this and go back to my best spinner. Did I take it? I've taken it all out. Okay, let me show you. This is for Emmanuel. Let me show you how quick it is to do a new article. So I'm just going to get rid of these to keep it tidy for me so I know what I'm doing. And I'm going to add a new article. We'll stick with the skincare. Now, if I go to the code window and click on the light bulb, this article, which I think is about 500 words, is going to spin in 2 seconds, was it? I don't know, 3 seconds. So now, when I copy and paste this back into my blog using this text, that's important to remember. And then spin me was down at the bottom, wasn't it? I need it to be in test mode. And then I'm going to publish. And then I'm going to show you what it actually does. Okay, when I can get to the top. Yeah, so let's actually look at the post and just turn these off for a moment. So it's still, did I forget to, I might have forgotten to activate it. Let me just check. Where are my settings? Oh, okay. Sometimes when you're doing these things live, you can forget the obvious buttons to check, can't you? If I don't activate the spinning, it won't spin. So I'm sorry for confusing you. This tool, when you check this box, will allow you to put in that sort of gobbledygook that we've just seen. Okay, so I'm going to update that. Let that finish saving. And then what it will do is give you an article, one of the variations from your spin tags. Now that's straightforward. You can do this directly from the best spinner. You can publish to your blog, right? Here's the thing. Google rewards fresh content. So how can I make this content fresh a month from now? Or let me rephrase. How can I make this appear to be fresh? Well, if I reload the page, I'm going to get a different version of the article because Spin Me, if I scroll down, is doing that for me automatically. And I can specify how often I want this to happen. So Cheryl, you were asking earlier, how often should you kind of make your article fresh and so on. One thing we don't want to do is make Google get suspicious. So I wouldn't do this every couple of days. I wouldn't go any lower personally than about 30 days. You might do 90 days. That's 4 times a year. So it will look fresh 4 times a year. 30 days would be 12 times a year. And, you know, we just put in the number of days here. So let's say spin between 30 days and 45 days. Yeah. So it's going to give me a spin between 30 days and 45 days. A site visitor landing on this page will see a version. If they come back 45 days later, they're going to see a different version. But more importantly, so is Google and the other search engines. And Google and the other search engines will see this as fresh content. Now, does that make sense to everybody? And can you see why that's a powerful tool? Jan, this tool is your bonus. You get that for free. Got to do it manually for you. So it's going to be next week when I send out the license keys. And it will work with any spin. So if you do a manual spin yourself, you can put it in here. I'm doing it in test mode just so you can see what I'm doing. Yeah, SpinMe is a plugin that you install onto your blog. And you see you put that raw content and it's now, it appears that it's just got a normal article, doesn't it? But actually, it's behind the scenes, it's hiding all that syntax for you, that gobbledygook. Let me just answer these questions. How do you handle the images on these posts? Would you go back and update the images for the subsequent course? Ooh, that's a good question, Lynn. I've got a really good answer, but I don't want to complicate things. Okay, Cheryl, your question. I'll come back, Lynn, in a second. So if you see a version you really like, should you save a copy, or you lose that version forever? If you've saved it here, and we've got this save icon, right? It's still going to be in your best spinner tool itself, and you can generate those articles whenever you want. So, whether you manually save it yourself, if you want to for safety, yes, you could do. And bear in mind when you're generating here with the refresh button, if you see something you like, you can do that. I personally wouldn't go save it because I'd have to go looking at the blog. And the whole point of putting this on the blog like this is to save me having to go back, to save me time. So to me, Cheryl, I wouldn't do that because it's kind of wasting the time I'm saving. Does that make sense? I mean, I'm not saying you can't do it. It's just why spend extra time when the point is to save time? But it's entirely whichever way you like to do it. Leslie, yes, you're going to get this tool. You've got this tool. If you're a Best Spinner 4 user, you're going to get the tool, but I've got to do it manually, so you'll have to be allowing me a few days next week to get it sorted for everyone. Now, let me just refresh the page again, and we get a different area, a different version. Refresh it again, and we get a different version. I've set it to do it every second. You would set it maybe 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, okay? Please let me emphasize that. Do not make this change too soon, because Google will notice. So, 30 days is probably the quickest. Now, Jan, I think, was asking, was it Jan? Yeah, let's have a look. Lynn, I beg your pardon. How do you handle images on the posts? Okay, let me show you. And please, everybody, tell me if I'm going to make this too complex on this bit. Within the post, you can spin a sentence and the associated image, right? And you can keep them together in one block. So if I take this out for the moment, because I want to just show you a clean version of what I'm talking about. If I have, this is version 1. So this image shows acne skin. And then you do this HTML code, right? And then you put whatever your image is, right? Oops, JPEG. That would give me an image with that text. Thank you, Gary. There's more to come. The power of what you can do with this is incredible. Leslie, yes. If you do that later, just let me know later. So that's one version, Lynn. Are we okay, everybody, so far? I've got one version that's associated with one image. Now let me just get some space. I like space. You can do this manually, right? Here is an image of clean skin after treatment, right? And we put this special code, and I know you don't all know it, that's fine. So http something mysite.com cleanskin.jpg. What I've got now is Vincent, I won't put the code in the chat window because actually somebody's already suggested that we give you a clickable button in the best spinner to do it for you. So I'm going to speak to John to get that coded in to make life easier. But I will also give you notes as well. Yeah, bro. Another drop-down box. So far I've got 2 versions, haven't I? If I only want them to appear one at a time, I don't want them both there, this is what I do. At the beginning of the first one, I put a left curly bracket. At the end of the first one, that's there, I put what I call the vertical pipe, this bar. I'm just going to get rid of the blank space now. At the end of the second option, I put the right facing curly bracket. Now, by the way, I'm saying second option. You can have 3 options, 4 options, 5. You can have 40 options in here if you like. Okay. What that will do now is randomly spin text and images, but because of how I've put the image with the text together, the right image will appear with the right text every time. Does that make sense, Lynn? Because I know this is kind of a more advanced use. Ralph, yes, it does. Great, thanks. And what I'll do, just so you know, I'll add to the recording later and actually give you more examples of that with some real images that you can use, okay? So that you can do that. Oh, Wim, what a great question. Is it a good idea to spin the title for search engine optimization constantly? Not constantly, no, but you can do. Now, the option, we give you an option on Spin Me, if you're using it on your blog, whether to spin the titles. You might, and there are certain ways you can spin them that can be useful. For example, you might want to put the word updated sometimes. You might want to put the phrase newly updated. And then when anybody looks at that title, think, oh, this is a new article, right? So in fact, let me just show you that post. Am I still in the edit? No. Sample 1. Let me just edit this and show you what I mean. Okay. Um, so that would now be a title that may be of more interest to somebody. I can change it. I could put newly updated, new information. Right, so that's already 2 variations. Sample 1, updated with fresh information. That's sample 3 now. So we've got 3 in a few seconds. Now you can do that with the spinner, of course. Right. I personally don't now. When we first made this plugin, yeah, you can do it, but you know, whether it's massively beneficial, I don't know. I think Google have probably moved on quite well from that now. I think they look at the content far more than you know, the title. The title can be clickbait, you see, but the content, if you've got 6, 7, 800 words of good content, that takes work, right? So Google will tend to reward that. A title, you can put a clickbait title in 5 seconds. So for me, although the answer is yes, you can. I mean, you can spin the title if you want to. On your blog, I probably wouldn't. Now, if you're talking about the title for the article and you're distributing it around the web, so you might have 5 or 6 blogs yourself that you control, yeah, then it's a good idea. So on your own blog, on a single article, as I'm showing you here, no, I probably wouldn't. If you're distributing the article, yes, I would. So does that answer the question, Wim? So that's kind of the difference between the two. Now, remember, one of the things we said is that you can offer articles to people in exchange for links. Now, when I talked about the quality before, where as we go through, we're going to have a look at, does this word make sense with the rest of the sentence? This is where you get the quality, and it doesn't take long to do, and it gets quicker when you practice. Now, the sad fact is, probably 75% of the people who use spinners, any spinner, will just click the automatic, you know, spin it all kind of thing and leave it at that. So they never get really ultra high quality because they're not spending a few minutes to do that. If you think of this as something that you would multiply your time with, spending an hour to get 8 hours worth of benefit, it's a good deal. It's a good deal. So from that point of view, yeah, why wouldn't you? And if you get that kind of quality article, you might produce 3 or 4 of them, send them out to people, get a few links, offer them to people. Don't do them all the same day. I mean, you know, let's be sensible. Approach somebody. When you get the yes, let them do the article, get your link back. A month later, you can circle back to the next version you've got, see if somebody else wants it. And one of the ways that this actually has a benefit for you, or I beg your pardon, one of the ways this doesn't cause a problem for you, is that there are so many articles on the World Wide Web that it's unlikely that any visitor is going to come across those two different places you've put the same kind of article. It's just, when you think there are billions of pages and millions of people, the odds are pretty low that that article is going to be seen on both blogs by the same person. It may happen, but even then, people are reading articles like that all the time anyway, and it just reconfirms what they think they already knew about that particular topic. As far as Google's concerned, um, duplicate content isn't the problem that people think it is, as long as you're not kind of gaming the system with thousands of links to the same duplicate article. So if you get a link from a decent site with an article and you get a different link from a different site, maybe with a slightly different emphasis, and the article is 60% unique, that's fine. Google are fine with that. It's not a problem. If you get 10,000 links from the same article, well, you've just blown your website. Okay, that's what used to happen in the past. That's how people did spinning in the past. Doesn't work. A couple of high quality links from decent websites are worth far more to you than 10,000 links, spammy links, all with the same article. So this is quality, not quantity, that I'm emphasizing. Does that make sense? Wim saying, personally, I would keep the H2 header. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Um, Christopher. Now, okay. We haven't really talked about clients yet, but Christopher's saying you could create a masterpiece of Spintax and sell unique versions to people. Yes, you could sell PLR. You could sell PLR. Each of these versions would then become unique. Do you know what PLR is? I think most of you probably will. And most PLR that's sold is the same article sold to 50, 100, 250 people. The identical article. If you could sell PLR that is 60 to 70% unique, let's talk figures, shall we? So you do some articles, let's say it takes you a day, and you sell a batch of 10 articles for $10 to 250 people. It's worth a day's work. Worth a day's work. PLR is sold every day of the week, and some of it is good, some of it's poor, some of it's really lousy. What I will tell you is this: anybody who sells good PLR is going to keep their customers coming back, because most people who buy PLR find junk, right? When they open the package, it's junk. That's the truth. If you find a PLR provider who gives you good stuff, you keep going back. When they email you with the next, here's the autumn collection, you're going to buy it, particularly if the pricing is good. Now, $10 doesn't sound a great deal, but if you're selling 100 copies, say, that's $1,000. I mean, for a day's work, would that be reasonable? Yeah, I think so. So you write an article and create, let's say 100 variations on it, and it takes you 8 hours. If you sold 100 copies, that's $1,000. So Christopher's point's a really good one. If you make a great Spintax version, you can sell the unique versions to people. You could create an entire business on the back of this. Leslie, should you ask for a link in exchange for an article immediately, or should you comment on the page first? Okay, so what we're talking about there is, how do you approach somebody? Number one, you look for websites related to your niche, but they don't have to be directly exactly the same. Okay, so this means there's less competition for them. You're not competition for them. It makes it easier for them to say yes. Then you have a look at the website itself, and read what's there. Spend a bit of time researching. If the articles are good and you see that they're generally 500 or 600 words and they've got images and so on, that will already tell you what kind of article you need to be offering. So the research gives you double benefits. Number one, it tells you what you need to offer. Number two, it allows you to talk about it. So let me give you an example. If I were writing an email to somebody about their blog, in fact, does anybody have a blog they want me to look at and analyze and show you what I mean for real, rather than just make an example? Yes, I will, Kay. We're going to send out the recording with everything else, but please enjoy the barbecue. If anybody's got a blog they want me to look at, I'll show you how I would approach talking about it. If not, I'll just talk about it as an example. So I'll wait for a second to see if anybody's got a blog they want me to go look at. So once I've done that research, I know that, let's say, the articles are going to be 600 words. I know what I'm aiming for now. Their articles are all 600 words. It could be another blog where the articles are 2,000 words. I know what I need to offer. So if I've read the latest article and maybe the one before, I can be honest about it and I can be complimentary, or I can also be offering a critique. You don't have to just be positive. You can, as long as you're being reasonable. You could say things like, I noticed your blog the other day. I work in the similar field, and I noticed that your article, How to Save Money by Composting, um, had a great deal of imagery on it, which really illustrated the points very well. I was just wondering if that's something where you take the images yourself, or do you find them from royalty-free sites? Because when I create articles, I like to add a lot of media as well, because it helps to engage the readers. Would you be interested in a free article with such media, that kind of media, on the topic of, and you can suggest a topic, in exchange for a link back to my author information on my website? And you can have a look at my website, which is www.eamon.com. The article would be free to you, and it would be just for you. I would add the images, probably do 600 to 800 words, because I noticed that you have that sort of length article generally on your blog. So what you're doing with that, by the way, you're showing that you've read the blog. You're not a spammer. Spammers don't read blogs. Spammers go to a blog and say, "Oh, nice blog." No, we're not doing that. We're actually looking at the blog. You're showing that you know what you're talking about because you've analyzed the article, and it doesn't take much to analyze an article. Has it got images? Mention the images. Is it a long article? Mention that it's a long article. That's simple, right? You're approaching them with a value proposition. You're approaching them with something that people want: good quality content. And if they can have it without work, I mean, look, if I offered all of you a 1,000-word article, a high quality 1,000-word article with images, perhaps a video and so on, for free, how many really are going to say no? Some, some. But I'd get enough people saying yes to make it worthwhile. Remember, quality, not quantity. I don't need 1,000 links. Half a dozen links could get me on page one for the right kind of niche. So reaching out that way with by the way, do you know what I forgot to do? Your screen's not frozen, I'm just talking. So reaching out to people in that way, offering them an article, yeah, a few minutes research is going to get you more likely to get the yes. Does that make sense? Because what I'm trying to emphasize really is I would like you to aim for quality, because the speed at which you can do it is multiplied, right? It's multiplied by the best spinner. And so if you've got an hour's work, you get the results of 2, 4, 6, 8 hours. If you did a full day's work, you got the equivalent of a week, 10 days. And so instead of having to, let me put it this way for you. Over the next year, you can do 12 months of work to build your blog and add content and get links. Or you can do a month of work to get the same results. You choose. Anybody going to go for the 12 months work? I mean, seriously, I'm asking that question. No, why would you? So it's reducing the time it will take you by multiplying your efforts. But you know the phrase work smarter, not harder. The key phrase is work, right? You got to do some work. Work smarter, not harder. And this is why I'm emphasizing quality to you so much, because if you do that, you're going to be so far ahead of the average crowd that you'll get the benefits. You will get the benefits. So Meg's making a point that with the old version, you can spin links, link text, or both. Yeah, you still can, Meg. You can do that in the best spinner here. Let me just go back to the correct window. There we go. So at the moment, you would do that in the code window, but you can, in the manual, you can do exactly what you like. So the point Meg's making is that you can have a lot of variety with a link, both in terms of the clickable words that you actually, the anchor text that you click on, and where it goes. So you can mix and match as much as you like. So yeah, that's still possible. So you can do that very easily. I'll just come back to SpinMe very quickly to show you. So that, excuse me, So that version here, which I've got on test mode, will change every time a visitor comes. It's going to, give us a new spin. Oh no, I've edited it, haven't I? Yeah. So because I edited, I've changed it. But anyway, once you put in the spin tax gobbledygook and you choose way down at the bottom here to activate the spinning and you choose your timescale, that will do it for you. It does the rest. You don't have to touch it again. Gary, is there a place we go to read for in-depth training like this? Well, you're going to get the replay in the help area, but it's going to be done by video really, because we need to show you things quite honestly, and it would end up being a 2,000-page PDF if we tried to do it. And I know some people prefer to read, but honestly, when we're demonstrating things, I think showing you by video is going to be the best way for most people. So I want to see if there are any questions, because I've gone over quite a lot here, and some of it was a little bit more advanced in terms of manual stuff than I wanted to do today. But is there anything where I've confused anybody that I can clarify for you? Or do you have any other questions that you want me to answer at this point? Because I know we've gone over. I'll try to finish reasonably soon for you, but I wanted to make sure that you know just how much power that you can get, because you can create articles and sell them, which I think Jason was suggesting. You can do this for clients. People will pay you for this. I haven't even shown you about posting to your blog, have you? That's in the help area, so I'm not going to show you now. But once you go into the generate, you can post to your blog. Oops, sorry, wrong one. Now the blog, I say your blog. If you're charging people, you can post to their blog for them, right? You can post to their blog for them. Now, if you create good variation in an article and you get 5 clients and you're posting to them, once a month, once a week, you can be posting a different article to each one of them and charging them for doing that. Now, I'm not saying pretend that you're going to give them a unique article each time. You might want to explain that you're going to give them a high quality spin. According to the quality, you'd set your price. But there are people who will pay for that kind of work because it saves them the time and effort. And to write an article might be 2 hours for some people if they've never done it before. They may not be particularly quick. And then posting is a few minutes. But if they were to spend a couple of hours a week, that's 8 to 10 hours in a month. If you can do it in a few minutes effectively, then even if they were only paying you a few dollars for each one, it suddenly becomes worthwhile. So that's another way you can use it. You can use it for yourself, of course. You can use it to reach out for links. Now, we've talked about links, and we've had a couple of people saying that's a good idea. But the links you get do not have to go to your website. You can sell the links. Does that make sense as well? Because if you sell a link to somebody else's website, it's going to have the same benefit to them as it would to your website, right? Now, selling links, if it gives somebody a benefit in the search engine ranks, it's another revenue stream. Okay, so there's an awful lot you can do in here. Okay, we've got some questions. Have a look. Will there be a forum blog? Yes, there will in the Prosperative Meg. Yeah, the other one. Christopher, minimum maximum setting. Yes, I'll show you on SpinMe. So on SpinMe, what we have, you activate the spinning, and then you choose the minimum spin period and the maximum. Okay. If you want this to spin every 30 days, you would, I've gone past, hang on, 30 days, you would set 30 in both sides, and that will spin once every 30 days. If you want it to spin between 30 and 60 days, it will choose a random number. So what that means is, one month it might be spinning on day 47, another it might be day 42, another it might be day 59, and so on. So the maximum setting we have, Christopher, for this one is actually a full year, including a leap year. That's a long time. I personally would probably do between 30 days and 90 days myself, but I wouldn't go any faster than that, honestly. Let me have a look at the rest of the questions. Okay, Leslie's got 2 questions. Would I sell articles from my website or use Upworks? I would sell it from my website to establish a brand. And you could sell it through things like Warrior Forum. That's a popular place for selling PLR. If you sell PLR the first time and nobody's ever heard of you, virtually give it away. And if they get good quality, some of them are going to come back and you'll get some testimonials. Then you can put your price up. If you've never sold before that way, you've got to establish yourself. Selling links seems dodgy if you're passing on an inferior spammy website. Well, yes, Les. So you know what the solution is, don't you? Don't do that. That's what you do. If you're doing research on these websites, um, you know, go for quality on both sides. Mike is saying he needs to study inserting an image in an article. Yeah, what I'll do, I think, because that's something that would be useful for people, I'll make a separate video that deals with just that single question. And I'll show you how to add an image into your blog, and then how to find out what the special code is for that particular image, and then how to put it in an article. So I'll do a separate video for that because I think it is a useful thing. And if you have images on your website, that's great because you might as well get maximum use from them. But if you're not sure how to do it, it can look like complete, science fiction. So I'll make a video to show you how to do that. Bruce is asking, would you sell links like a private blog network? No, I don't think I'd. No, I think they can still work these days if you're very, very careful about it. But I'm talking about, you know, you want a link. I will charge you X dollars. I will create an article for a quality website and get a link back to your website for you. So you don't do anything but pay me. That's the offer I would make to you in selling the link to you. Then once I know I've got you as the customer and your niche is gardening, skincare, weight loss, whatever, then I go find websites that I offer the article to. I tell them your website. I say, this is the website where I would like the link. This is the article I'd be willing to offer. Is that acceptable to you? Now, if they say yes, great. Collect the money, send the article, check that the link's being given, job's finished. If they say no, check another website, ask them. The first no doesn't mean it's the last no. Okay, so if you get turned down first time, keep going. So if you're going to sell links, effectively you're doing the work for both sides, right? So one side is giving you some money for doing it, the other side is giving you a link that has value to the first person. Does that make sense? So what you're doing is taking two people who both have a need, and you're filling the need for both of them at the same time and getting a little bit of money for doing it. That's just one of the revenue streams you can have with the best spinner. So let's have a look. Okay, we're about 40 minutes over, which is fairly typical for my training webinars. Any questions I've missed or anything anybody wants to ask me before we finish? Let's have a look. I'll scroll back to see if I've missed anything, but let's have a look. Yes, you could add code for video. Yep, you could embed YouTube videos, absolutely. Okay. Several questions about images, so we'll do a separate video about that one. When I copy a spun article to use on a blog, Bruce is asking, do the colors go back to black or do I need, right, okay. So what Bruce is asking is when we do the spinning, the color change here is to let you know that you've worked on these particular blocks of text. But it's only for you to see that you've actually spun those pieces of text. It isn't something that gets translated into your blog. It will go through as normal text, which in most cases is black depending on your theme. But the color here doesn't get transferred because behind the scenes, what actually gets transferred, in fact, let me just show you that again. This is all red, yeah? So if I put this onto my blog, you're going to see it will go as normal. So I'll just put this onto the demo blog and we'll do it as general. Now we'll do it as my test. So I'm going to post it to my blog. It's posting a version to the blog already done, and you'll see in a second it's come out as normal text. So I've got to scroll down to see if I missed any questions. Let's have a look. Inserting. Well, you've just spun 10 articles now. Oh, really? Very good. Okay. Okay. Autospin does everything for you. Yes, Linda. And spin allows you to go through manually. That's correct. It will pick up words or phrases. If it recognizes a phrase, it will allow you to spin that phrase. If it doesn't see a phrase, it will choose words. And Cheryl's asking, what are foreign language directories? Honestly, Cheryl, I don't know. You'd have to do a Google search because I haven't used them myself. Wim is asking the part about translation. Okay, well, let's have a look at translation. So I've just posted that to my blog. So I can translate it into a different language. Wim, are you in Holland? Should we do it in Dutch? Am I guessing right from your name? So the translation here is going to take, you'll be able to tell us if it's a good translation. It's going to take about 5 seconds. 3, 2, it's done. And I can post that to my blog now. And I'm using the same dummy blog. And hopefully you read this. You can tell me if it is anywhere near. So when we're confronted with acne, something medical professionals have suggested. Yeah, okay. So it's not going to be absolutely human perfect, of course not. But you can see that the translation is very quick and easy to do. If you put other language articles on your blog, and you can do it on different blogs or the same blog. You can have, a section on your blog for different languages, or you could create a new blog just for that specific language. You're opening up the content to a new audience. It needs a little bit of work, but it's normal. Yes, yeah, absolutely. So it's going to get you close. And if you're a native speaker, you can improve it, of course, but it's certainly a lot better than me trying to translate it. Kenny's asking, what's the best way to use translation? Should you put this on an existing site in English? There's two ways, Ken. One is you can have a section of your blog, a category perhaps, for different languages, so that you've got everything in one site. The other is if you wanted to make a blog on a French domain and then put it that way. If I were doing this personally, and this is just personal feeling, it's not, I can't give you statistics about it. I would put it on a single blog and have the languages in categories. And on the blog, I would make it clear that the reason I'm putting these translations, and I'd be honest that they are machine translations, is to help people whose first language is not English. Other than translating the spun content, will we be able to spin other languages too? I'm not sure what you mean, Christopher, because how do you mean? I'm not quite sure about that. So Ken, does that sort of answer your question? I don't have statistics to tell you which is better of the two, but for me, it's easier to have it on one blog, and then it makes the blog bigger. And so I've got hundreds of pages of content instead of 20. If you had 10 articles on your blog and you use each of the languages, you're going to get 150 pages. Yeah. Bruce is asking, will the translation spin from time to time? No, the translation, the good question, Bruce. The translation here is a one-time translation. So let's go from Dutch back to English. It's going to mangle this, obviously, translating from one to the other, but it's not bad. It's not bad. So you can translate from one to the other. So let's have a look, Christopher. If I had German text, I can't spin it automatically. I'd need to translate it to English first. Yes, yeah. Honestly, spinning in other languages is never going to be something we can offer at a high level because it just, yeah, Leonard, I get the point, but the answer is no. No, we can't spin from German. We can translate from English to German once you've spun, but you start with the English language version. And I don't think we've got any plans to change that. I'll be honest, I don't think that's going to change. So let's have a look. We'd sooner do it well in English, rather than poorly in other languages. Okay, well, I'm seeing some of the same kind of questions, but let's have a look. So if you translate an article and you could do a video sales letter from the audio and translated article. Yes, you could use both of those if you wanted, and you can do them as podcasts or add them into a video, certainly. Yeah. Thank you, Cheryl. I'm glad you found that useful. There's a lot to cover, and I think some people might need to go back a couple of times to see what we've done, because we've covered more than I intended to, really. We sort of jumped a little bit to some of the more advanced things. But seriously, when you're beginning with this, if you're not sure, please start simple and build your way up, because there's just so much power here. And the visual tool is the one that's meant to make it easier for you. So that's a good place to start. But if you really want super easy, you go to the code window, and this light bulb will do the full translation, sorry, the full spin for you. The quality when you read it is never going to be 100%, but you could take one of the versions, tweak it a little bit, take a few minutes, and then you've got a better article. So that's a nice, easy way to do it if you want to start real simple. And when you've got a bit more sort of mileage under your belt, think about all the revenue streams I mentioned to you. I would love one of you or several of you to come back and tell me that you've started selling PLR, because it sells every day of the week. Every day somebody's selling PLR. And very often, I don't want to name any names, but very often some of it is pure junk, and they sell regularly because it saves people time. If you were to sell slightly higher quality, you could build up an entire base of customers. PLR sells. So if any of you actually goes and does that, please let me know. I would love to hear from you. Well, Bruce is asking, would you sell on Fiverr? You could do. I would, if I were doing this myself, I would go onto the Warrior Plus website, and I would sell it from there, because a lot of PLR is sold there. So that's just go where people are already selling it, and start small, start cheap, and build your customer base. There was somebody who did this with videos a long time ago. And again, I'm not going to name names, but he sold PLR to his videos and built up a large audience who buy most of the stuff he sells. I don't want to name names, but what he sells is lousy. But the people that he's built up the customer base with are happy to buy that level from him at the price he charges. So if I can put it this way, even if you don't have absolute top quality, there will be a target market audience that may be happy with that level of quality at the right price. So, you don't have to be the world's best writer. If you're not the world's best writer, you need to find people who aren't looking for the world's best writer. They're looking for somebody who's just selling the price cheap. Yeah. Bruce, I'm not saying anything. Bruce is asking me who it is. I couldn't possibly comment, Bruce. But I'm not impressed with the quality of the video. But more importantly, and this is a serious point, the people who buy from him are satisfied with what they buy, and they go back, and they say wonderful things about him. So yeah, wow. Bruce is saying wow. Christopher's made a good suggestion. That's a good suggestion. You could buy a single article from a high quality writer and then spin it. That's a great idea, Christopher. Thank you for that. Yeah. So Joe's saying if we do a webinar on how to sell things on the internet, she'd be interested in seeing that. She wants to know how to deliver the product. Okay, well, yeah, I think we'll do one of those, Cheryl, because there's a lot of different ways. And again, I want to emphasize this. When you're first starting, choose the simplest way until you get some experience, and then make it, go for the more complex stuff and so on. Because that's how, everybody learns. I don't know if anybody noticed, but when I was dealing with this earlier and showing you some manual spinning, did you notice what I did? To make life simple for me, I got a ton of space, so I only had to look at a little bit of the content. And the reason is I've got decades of experience with spinning. The reason is it's difficult for me to look at all this. So I make life easy for myself. You should do the same. It can be every bit as effective, but make it easy on yourself. So let's have a look. Okay. Let's say he believes in good quality PLR and he uses PLR. So yeah, you're right. Good quality is extremely good. Bruce, I'm not going to read it out, but the answer is no. No, you shouldn't do that. No. Um, no, no. Let me raise the point because a couple of people have said this. It's possible for you to look at somebody else's content and then spin it well enough that nobody would know. No, please don't. It's not right. You wouldn't like it if somebody did it to you, and because you've got this power behind you, and you've got 132,000 PLR articles and a ton of stuff in Article Builder, you really don't need any seed articles from outside. You've got as much as you could use in a lifetime, and then make some quality stuff. You can make a name for yourself. Seriously, there are PLR sellers who sell stuff every day of the week and make a nice living. And you're never maybe going to be a multimillionaire from doing it, but if you only ever made enough to pay for a second car or pay for your kids' college tuition, I mean, we don't all need to make multiple millions to make it worthwhile doing, do we? So think about the different revenue streams. I think we've mentioned about 5 or 6. You'll be able to review this in the recording. Let me see if there's any last questions quickly. Word count for an article. Okay, so I think what you're asking, Ralph, is you want to know what the word count is here. I'll ask if we can add that in. I'm not sure, honestly. I think we probably can, but it's not there at the moment. Mike's reminding me about something I said years ago. More space. I'm trying to remember what I said, Mike. What was the discussion? Yeah, I think everybody's saying they'd like to see the word count. I agree with you. I agree with it. Check it for unique content. Vincent, good question. Good question. So in here on the code tab, we have this, sorry, on the generate, I beg your pardon, we have this check mark. And if you have a Copyscape account, you put in your Copyscape details. I haven't put mine in because you'd be able to see all my personal details. But you put in your user and key, which you get when you get a Copyscape account and buy some credits from them. You can check the article and it will then show you the results in here. To say that appears on 2 article websites and it's 20% the same or whatever it may be. So you can do it from within the system, but you do need a Copyscape account and you need to buy a few credits from Copyscape. I think there's still, it works out about 5 cents per assessment. So it's not expensive. Leslie's saying, does Google demand articles of 2,000 plus words these days? I don't know about demand, Leslie, but when we did some analysis a while back, 2,000 plus word articles seem to be the hotspot right now. So Ralph is asking, what's a good article size, 500 to 1,000? Mix and match, I would say, but I would certainly do some longer ones as well. And if you want to protect your terms, so in the visual tab, so this is for Vincent, there's a padlock, and in the code, there's a padlock. And when you click on those, you can do just this article protection or every article you do. So you choose which one it is. Yeah, does that help, Cheryl? Okay. Yeah, Cheryl's asking how you go back to find a matching area when you're doing on the generate. So let me show you what she means. So when we generate using these 3 bar things, we can compare articles. And again, it's shown in the help area, but if you click on one of the cells, it will show you that particular article. And you can see that, these yellow blocks have the same wording. So what you'd have to do is just remember, so it's the second paragraph, and go back and change it. So let's have a look. Visual, second paragraph. Click here, do some variation, and then just work your way through. Christopher, most of the time a bigger article will rank better. Yes, that's true. And bear in mind, if it seems like a lot of work to do a 2,000 word article, it will really seem like a lot of work to do 20 2,000 word articles. But if you're using the spinner, it's not massively much more work than doing just the single original article. So you actually get more benefit with a longer article simply because it's multiplying the time you spend. Right? So, oh, Ralph's saying he finally understands the spinning process. That's great. Thank you. Now, please, if you have questions when we finish, which we're doing now, send them through and I'll answer them. I will remember to do the video for you about putting in the image links. In fact, we might as well just do links anyway, image and website links. So I'll do that as a separate video. So that'll come through sometime next week. This training video will probably be in the help area over here tomorrow. And then you'll be able to review it as often as you want to. And I will put it in the private forum area for Prosperative members as well. Next week, I will send out the manual licenses for the SpinMe. Can't do it over the weekend. Linda's asking, where do you send questions? You can send them through on live chat if you want to, Linda, or the help desk, and I'll take care of them. So either of those places. And then depending on what the question is, it may be something I share with everybody. And if it's a suitable question, I can do another video or possibly even another webinar, depending on the question. So the live chat icon would normally be appearing within the best spinner. But if you go to prosperative.com, you see down in the bottom right hand side this little blue thing, and you'll be able to click on that and send a question. Okay, but it will come into it will appear within the best spinner as well, probably over the weekend. Suggestion from Linda about adding a frequently asked question section. That's a good idea. Yeah, I like that. That's a good idea. So yeah, we'll put one of those in as well because that would be extremely helpful. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Will we? Okay, Christopher. At the moment, you can allow your virtual assistant to log in for you and do some work, but only one of you can log in at a time. So you can't have a separate login. We won't be adding separate logins. You'd have to give them your login. But you can do that now if you want to, but not as separate logins. Yeah, sad face, sorry. No, it's got to be your login. So thanks very much, everybody. If you do have some more questions, send them through, and we'll get this replay online for you as quick as we can. And thank you very much for joining me, and I appreciate you letting me go an hour over time that I promised. That's fairly typical for training webinars, and we've still got even more we could talk about, but we'll do that on another one. Thanks a lot. See you again, folks. Bye now.